Before we get underway, I got some Marlins news. The Marlins beat the Rockies. So the Marlins beat the Rockies tonight. That game is final. They won 4-1. Back to your guys' regular schedule programming.
Christian, how much did you pay Steven to do that? We'll get into that in just a second. Welcome in, everybody. You're listening to 102.9 The Game. This is the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. We are joined by my guy himself, Rocco Miller, joining us from the West Coast, bracketeer.org. Rocco, how are we doing tonight?
Doing great, fellas. What's going on? How are we doing out there? Is everybody in Florida? Where are you guys at?
Everyone's in Florida. Drew heads home back to New Jersey tomorrow, but everyone's in Florida for now. I was just over at the coach's show with Coach Jacobs and his lookalike Ken Levica. So all's good in paradise. Rocco, you know our photographer Christian. Drew covers football for us at FAU. We got all our guys in tonight, but we'll get into some college basketball since you're here with us. I don't think you're here to talk some football. Even though the Washington Huskies are going to be looking good this year, NCAA.
We'll see about that. Yeah, we need a lot of new players, but the NFL draft was a ton of fun. I think we broke a record with 10 guys drafted. That was incredible.
How about those Huskies? Michael Penix, he's headed to Atlanta, but. Yeah. Rocco, I haven't seen you since the Final Four. I haven't seen you. I personally haven't talked. We haven't done one of these podcasts since I was at the AAC tournament. So a lot has gone on. But how was the Final Four adventures this year? Hopefully, the phone remained with us the entire time.
Oh yeah, it was a little smoother than Houston was back when I saw you there. Yeah, it was another great experience. I actually stayed 8 days instead of 5, so felt like I was there forever. But you know, for those that are less familiar with the college basketball business, they always host the college basketball coaches convention, better known as the NABC, at the same time as the Final Four. So that gets going about 3-4 days before the actual games start. And a lot of coaches will stick around and watch the games, you know. So I ended up joining a big group of coaches out in Scottsdale at a random sports bar instead of going to the game. And that, for me, with what I do, was so valuable. Just, you know, on Final Four Saturday, you're there 6 hours enjoying some beverages. There's these old classic games that they've played for years. Like a lot of these coaches have been doing this for 20, 30 years. So it's good to be in that mix, good to be in the tradition. I'll try to do that every year from now on because it's just a guaranteed long amount of time, good memories, and you never know where the night will take you after a couple of good Saturday afternoon games.
No, I'm going next year. I don't care. If the credentials shoot me down, I don't need the credentials. I will just go and have a good time. We'll enjoy some.
I'll invite you wherever I'm at, Robbie. It's San Antonio next year too, so we won't lose each other. It's pretty small town. We'll be able to get around on foot.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. San Antonio. Hopefully John Jacobs can rally up the Owls and get a trip back to Texas. We'll see. That'll be quite the tall task. We'll get into those Owls though in just a little bit. But it's Portal Wednesday, Rocco. It's the biggest day of the offseason so far. Portal closes in 2 hours and 53 minutes. Last time I checked, at least, there was 1,832 players in that transfer portal right now. You mentioned going to the coaches convention, and I'm sure you talked with a lot of guys there about the landscape. In your opinion, and maybe based off what you've heard from other coaches, what's the vibe like about this transfer portal type recruiting? Is it sustainable long term, or is it something the coaches are looking at just for this season or whenever the COVID years end?
Yeah, I mean it's a year-to-year sport right now, and I don't think it's sustainable long term because there's really no guardrails on so many different layers to it, and unless you're at the extreme top of the food chain, which it's a moving target, quite honestly. You know, I think in our brains, college basketball, the top of the food chain is the blue blood teams, your Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky's, and out of those, I would say maybe Kansas has been able to still get whatever players they want. But we've seen Duke lose a lot of guys. You know, Jeremy Roach is a 4-year stud, floor general, and just an absolute winner. And you know, Baylor had more resources to go get him. So it's not as straightforward as you might think in basketball, and that's what makes kind of the, you know, for lack of a better term, pay for play model so dynamic. It's really kind of like who's got the donors that want to pony up the most bucks, combined with got the best evaluators on their staff. Because we saw with Villanova last year, Villanova had a very large NIL budget and did not make the tournament. So it's not a guarantee just because you spend the most money. I mean, look how much Miami spent in the last year. It worked one year. The next year, a lot of the guys lost interest, and they were kind of two different teams throughout the year. So, you know, in hoops, it's really difficult because, you know, as you mentioned there, Robbie, today's the last day. And now we're in the last few hours, right? At any moment, we could see a tweet pop up with a big name of somebody that got a phone call tonight and trusts the other person on the other line just enough to throw his name in the portal, at least go explore that opportunity. You know, like New Mexico's got this unbelievable phenom, freshman of the year in the Mountain West Conference, an equivalent level league as the American Conference, JT Toppin, and last night goes in the portal. Perfect example. And so if you're you know, a coach at the American level, Mountain West level, or even below, of course, and you have some studs coming back, you're holding your breath right now. In fact, you might be with that kid at dinner to make sure he's not taking calls and keeping him out late tonight. I don't know how crazy it is. I'm sure that could be happening in a few places, but I know it's been an extremely stressful time for coaches.
100%. There's a bunch of things, you know. Kadari Richmond, I think he from Seton Hall, right? He's one of the better players in the portal right now, and he's being pursued by St. John's. So it's like it's interconference Power 5 level portal combat. It's everywhere. It's across all levels. And we saw with a guy with Charlotte, Lukai Patterson, who second team All AAC. He was a big factor in recruiting G. And he went portaling yesterday, and he went on the podcast and he came out and said, you know, I got approached with an offer that he didn't say he can't turn it down word for word, but he mentioned his family and how much an offer like that would help him out. And it's a whole new landscape that these guys have to go through. You know, he mentioned before that in his last portal bout, he wasn't even there. NIL wasn't a thing. So these guys who are in the portal right now are 2-time portal transfers. It's like a completely different world for them. And you brought up the little guys. We talked about how Kansas. Well, we first talked about the Blue Bloods, how Kansas has been able to hold it down. And then the little guys, like not, you know, FAU's. They've kind of moved above a little bit from the bottom of the pack. There's, as Coach Jacobs going to hate me for saying this, but they're probably still in the mid-major ranks, at least at the moment. But you know, how have you seen these mid-majors kind of combat this portal nonsense? And really, is there any situation right now where a mid-major is not a stepping stone?
Yeah, so I think there's a few different ways to look at it. You know, I look at it from a huge mathematical perspective. In one individual school and one individual mid-major, I don't know if they go that far as I go. But if you have 8 to 12 players in a rotation per team and 364 teams, you know, you mentioned 1,800 in the portal. I think it equals something like 3,000 players in Division One, maybe 3,500, somewhere in that range. It's still a numbers game. There's only a certain amount of elite players, so of course they're going to go to the elite schools year. Job.
Rocco, we lost your audio there a little bit. We lost your audio towards the end of the sentence.
Oh,
It's like cutting in and out. I don't know. Christian, you're hearing that too, right?
I'm hearing that.
I'm definitely.
okay. Give me a second here.
Oh, it sounds better now.
I think audio
Is
is
that
behind the scenes
I
production.
think that. Hold on. Wait. Oh, did we lose it? Oh, I think we're good. Can we?
testing?
Yep. I hear you. I hear you. I think we're back.
I have a new
Oh,
mic, so I thought I had it all perfected. And is it cutting out? Cutting out again?
there's like some static in the background, but it's working at the moment.
Let me go ahead and just unplug.
I was
How's
about to
that?
say, I think
I think that's better.
Yeah, we'll just go with this. This will stay the same. It's just not as sharp. But I was saying with St. Louis and Texas example, like Indiana State, Josh Schertz makes the move to St. Louis. St. Louis has a much larger budget than Indiana State, so that's a no-brainer for him. Pretty much the same geographical footprint of the Midwest. Ends up getting, of course, Crema Abdul-Jabbar. I call him Crema because he's Hispanic. Most people call him Cream. I think Crema is a little better. Anyway, that's we could debate that all night. But I would say him losing Jordan Kent and Larry Henry, I believe his name is, to Texas just goes to show you it's still a battle of resources. It's a per player decision. I think when John L. Davis hit the portal, maybe he would have never in a million years been able to tell me or you he would end up at Arkansas. But if with Arkansas being one of the top spenders, of course, with them interested, that kind of changes his perspective, right? So putting your name in the portal as an all-star player, sky's the limit, and you probably should do that. In fact, you'd be a little silly not to. But for the rest of the players who think they're better than they maybe actually are, they're going to still end up at this mid-major level and really be able to help a team and play a very effective role. I actually feel bad for the ones that go to places like Texas and end up being like 10th or 11th on the bench when they could have been a 35 minutes per game guy in your league, the American Conference, right? So I think the best mid-major coaches, the way they're handling it, to answer your question, is they're kind of allowing some things to happen, knowing that chaos is going to ensue, knowing they're not at the top of the food chain, but at the same time, they're the next best thing. So it is still a very valuable place to come and play basketball. And if you trust your evaluation, my experience has always been mid-major coaches outwork Power Five coaches because they haven't made the $30 million yet. Some of them have never even sniffed $1 million. So they're the guys who I get phone calls from at midnight because they're trying to work on things that seem small to you, like a schedule, like one random game on their schedule. But every little piece of that program is crucial for them to move up to the next level. What I end up seeing at the Power Five level is a lot of guys, coaches, they don't. It's not like they're trying to fail. I don't think anybody's trying to fail. They all want to do well there. But if you do fail, getting bought out of your contract and getting a check for $20 million, it's not a horrible deal at all. So, I just think we're our sport, as long as we can keep D1 the way it is at 364 or anywhere around 300 teams, you're still going to have those guys in the middle and at the bottom outworking the guys at the top to make this level of basketball pretty amazing.
That's what everyone's hoping for. The mid-major level, mid-major madness for sure. The publication. What are they going to do without it?
Right.
And so you talked about like they can go up to a P5 level and accept $600,000 or whatever it may be, but they may not see the starting lineup in that scenario, right? A Power Five can afford to throw you six figures and have you ride the end of the bench. So for a lot of these guys, I feel like it's going to come down to what they want to experience. Do they need the $600,000 right now? And if they do, that's an acceptable. Money doesn't always come around like that. But
that's another really big issue. I'm hearing far too often, and I won't name any places in by name, but so many players are promised X and they're only getting Y at the end of the year. And I think one of the common denominators that I've heard the most often is, if an NIL collective promises a player, I don't know, let's just use a number, 100,000 for the year, then they go on and have a bad year and he doesn't play that much. Sometimes this player, and this happened in the last season, is getting barely a fraction of the 100,000. And you can do the math. Like, some of those deals are bigger, some of them are smaller. But I think the more this era continues, the more information, the players are going to get smarter. And they're, as soon as somebody has a bad experience somewhere, that it's going to be hard for players to move on. The hard thing about that, though, too, is that coaches move pretty quickly themselves. So, that kind of refreshes the reputation. But I think that's why a lot of this on both sides of the coin, they are talking right now about this lawsuit going on between the House versus NCAA. There's supposed to be a ruling on it pretty quickly here. And one of the things that could stem from that, again, this is all speculation based on some arrangements that are being made. I think a plea deal is going to happen because the NCAA is not going to win the case.
Yeah.
And I think the writing's on the wall there. But now, and we've seen the NCAA also come out with this proposed new legislation. Not a lot of details in there quite yet, but some of the things I'm hearing is, and again, this will probably be at the highest level, salary caps upwards of 15 to 25 million a year. Again, that's probably not going to be Florida Atlantic, but it could be Florida for sure. And so if everybody's playing by those same rules and the money, instead of it coming from the NIL collective, starts coming from a line item in the athletic department, which is the proposed idea that I read earlier today, that changes things quite a bit, because then the athletic director is just like, okay, we're going to take this pot of money that we would usually spend to, build a new practice facility or, beef up this to make this nicer. That's not the important part anymore. The important part is making sure we have talent. Let's make sure we have our 25 million. So I think that will start to even things out, at least across the top of the sport. And then maybe, similar rules as you go down per level.
Yeah, I think some type of collective bargaining is eventually going to be put in place, whether or not it's exactly what you described, or a different route, or maybe to avoid these fake money situations, or whatever you want to call it. Players might need to unionize. I mean, we see it. The entire UAB football team just unionized.
And Dartmouth, we had Dartmouth basketball, which was interesting. And I think to that point. That's why I think the idea that they presented here with it coming straight from the athletic department, wherever they're getting the money from, like that's up to the athletic director to manage. But I think that puts the athletic department personally, or as a group, responsible for making sure that when the player receives the money, they can actually have a contract. We offered him this; he will get that, no matter what happens during our season, no matter if he gets injured or not, or her, because this is going to apply to women's sports as well. And so I think that's why it's the only way it can really work, because then with NIL collective, it is supposed to all come from there. But who know? You never know. Like you could have a player getting money from Instagram, money from the local Toyota dealership, money from the collective, like coming from all sorts of places. So this would be one way to at least funnel it through one source and have it directly be accountable in some sort of way.
It's changing, and it's changing fast. But
right.
I think we'll see very soon, whether it's this year or next year. I think we'll see some type of organization with it coming soon. Here with Rocco Miller on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Rocco, I want to hit on FAU before it gets too late, because I do know we got some people in who are some FAU fans. So a lot has changed since the last time me and you talked about these Owls, and they have been very active in the portal recently, their own right. But that started a while back, obviously Dusty with Michigan, and all of our players, John L. to Arkansas, Elijah to Florida, Vlad to Michigan, G to Charlotte, and Nick Boyd to San Diego State. So a lot of change at FAU, but you yourself, you're a West Coast guy. John Jacobs was at Gonzaga. What is your overall feel for Coach Jacobs? Have you crossed paths with him at all when you were out west?
Not directly. I mean, we've certainly been in the same building a few times, but we have not had a direct conversation. I plan to change that soon, as a supporter of the Owls and their future success. But I think, what I've heard, I've talked to a lot of people about him that I trust in the business, and just, researching his background and who he's been around. I think right off the bat, you see he spent a handful of years with a very successful Baylor program, and of course 4 years at Gonzaga, being around that dominant program during the time he was there. They probably averaged somewhere between 29 to 31 wins a season. And I think just learning all of those day-to-day habits, because it's as easy as Baylor and Gonzaga make it look, it's not easy. And they're doing little things behind the scenes every day to make their program better and keep them at the top of the sport. So I think just all those lessons alone, and the fact that you know people have been throwing his name in the hat for a Division One job, head coaching job for the last 3 cycles, and he finally lands one here at FAU. And he had an offer. I don't know if this is public or not. I don't mind sharing it. He had an offer to become the next coach at Pepperdine out here in the West, and Florida Atlantic got in there just in time before he became the next Pepperdine head coach. So he was very highly sought after, and I think the next best step that he made outside of that background and success is retaining Todd Abernathy. I think that was really big because Todd was one of those guys mentioned for succeeding Dusty May, of course. Todd's been around during the rise of Florida Atlantic, and keeping at least one layer of that glue in place going forward, even if all the players are different besides Trey Carroll.
Trey Carroll, baby.
And your red shirts, of course. But, I think that's really critical because what FAU did the last 2 years was not normal for that level. And there's such a buzz around Boca and everything that you guys have done. I've been around it. So it's critical that they kept that piece. And then Isaiah Austin comes in as a highly well-connected guy. I think that will not only help you on the bench during games, but also, of course, bringing in talent. And then Jordan Fee's a guy that I thought was going to be the next head coach at Canisius up in Buffalo, New York, Metro Atlantic School, which is a solid D1 job. Jordan Fee ended up not getting the job, and now he's on FAU staff. So this is a guy who's also ready to be a head coach. So you could argue that all 4 of those guys are qualified to be D1 head coaches right now, and 3 of them are assistants still. So I think John Jacobs did a tremendous job with that bench. Now, how all those guys mesh together, that's going to be what this summer is all about and what this upcoming early fall will be about to get ready for November. But on paper, I think that's just a tremendous bench that he built. And then, of course, his older background, he was a head coach in Macedonia, a head coach in Bulgaria. So just building and fostering those relationships overseas, could benefit the program as well long term.
And you mentioned the international based recruiting. That's something I think that'll be a huge advantage for him because I don't know, obviously overseas players are going to hear about NIL and want to bring some of that to them, and they're already getting paid a little bit overseas, but I feel like there's an advantage with him going after international players. Is there some type of pipeline you think he could set up to Boca from Macedonia, and you think that would be effective? Or maybe not just Macedonia, but all over Europe.
Yeah, well, I think the way it works now is, you have a coach out there throughout the probably right around now. I remember last cycle, and I haven't checked in with anybody that's over there quite yet. But there's FIBA events that will run from late April all the way through late June, sometimes into July. And so you need to have somebody over there. It probably won't be Jacobs himself, but somebody on staff will be over there periodically to build relationships. And with the transfer portal, you could have a really raw, talented European kid, age 18 or 19, go and play at maybe like a North Florida or a Lipscomb. I'm just thinking of random schools that are a little bit lower in Division I pecking order, and then get them to transfer up by the time they're a sophomore or junior. I think that would be the right formula, because I think if you start to recruit them directly, and maybe he'll take a chance on 1 or 2 of them, they'll probably need to redshirt pretty quickly. The game in Division I college basketball has proven, and again, this is not for every single European player, but it's for a very large majority of them. It's just a much more physical game over here, and we don't play with FIBA rules, which kind of affects the way that they do things. And there's several coaches I've talked to about it that really specialize in FIBA. We have a bunch right over where I live. St. Mary's is known for having a cluster of Australian guys. Of course, Matt Dellavedova came through here early on, and Patty Barnes, and like the list goes. Patty Mills. List goes on with their Australian pipeline, and San Francisco's repeated a lot of that. So, but they need that year of development because the game in college basketball is so much more physical. And it takes a year or so to put on the muscle, or at least just adapt to the rule changes and get into some level of flow. St. Mary's best player this year was Augustus Marshallonis, and it took him 4 whole years on campus to finally grow into a solid and exceptional college basketball player. Even though when he was recruited, he's a son of an NBA player, had all the hype. It just took him a long time to learn. So that's just a really good example of the learning curve. But I think nowadays you could just have a guy start in lower Division One. That way he's getting live minutes and transfer up a year or wait maybe 2 years.
The international aspect of it has been a hot topic for FAU fans because Jake has mentioned that he's recruiting players from Germany, Africa, Spain, all over really. So it's definitely interesting to hear that, how many of the players do have to make that adjustment. And maybe Jacobs does take a chance on him and has them adjust right here at FAU on the bench. Maybe it's something that he may consider. But something me and Drew talk about a lot with FAU, and something that you probably have a hand in yourself, is that, or maybe not yet, is at least that schedule for the Owls. I know you mentioned to me about the Charleston Classic a little bit. Got leaked without the last 2 teams, but any information on the Charleston Classic for us, and obviously any overall thoughts on the Owls non-conference so far with Liberty and Charleston as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually just pulling it up here. I couldn't see my tab. But yeah, Charleston Classic is going to have Seton Hall, Miami, Florida Atlantic, of course, VCU, Oklahoma State, and Texas A&M. John Rothstein reiterated that today. But I've been talking to the teams that are playing in it, including a little bit with FAU. I believe it's not done yet. I think they're still searching for 2. But of course, the format will be the same as it was last year when the Owls participated in the ESPN events tournament down in Orlando, and of course won that tournament. So you'll have 3 games in a bracket format, win or lose, 3 games and 3 very high level games. And then we also know that the Field of 68 Classic will be held in Charleston as well. So that's going to be 2 games against both the College of Charleston, who's now coached by Chris Mack. So I feel like that'll be a fun matchup. You got 2 first-year head coaches at those particular programs. Of course, Mack's a little more senior in terms of how long he's been around, but starting from scratch there at the College of Charleston. And then Liberty, 2 teams that you saw this year at home. So you'll play them both in Charleston. So that's 5 total games in the city of Charleston. So get an Airbnb for those 2 weeks.
For it, baby.
Yes. And then the other two known games are part of a series. So the Owls will play at FIU next year. And I do have the date, but I'm not looking at it. But that is happening. And they'll host Florida Gulf Coast in ideally a revenge game for that loss last year.
Yeah, you hope. Back-to-back losses for FGCU. Owl Nation's not taking that. I think there may be some words. FGCU is like the rival they don't even want to speak about at this point. But yeah, no. So huge. When you look at that Owl schedule, though, in year 1, we've talked about this a little bit, but is it more important for Jacobs to challenge himself year 1, or is it better to try to just go out there and beat up on some opponents so that you gain some confidence, but you also look good in front of the fans?
Yeah, I think you need a hybrid approach if you're John Jacobs, and I think the deciding factor will be how the roster shakes out. Because what I'm seeing right now, if you take away Leo Beath, who I believe is a walk-on, I'm seeing 7 players on the roster. So there's still a lot of open spots, and I'm curious to see, how they can attack the portal, how much talent will come to Boca. Right now, I think, AJ Staten coming over from Sanford's clearly a really nice piece, a really key player on a team that was great. That shot at 41.5% from deep last year. But again, he played in the SoCon. AAC's a step up from that. Leland Walker and Caleb Glenn, 2 different kind of paths here. Leland Walker is a guy that was one of the top scorers at Eastern Kentucky. They won their league, but they were not good in non-conference. They ended up around 200 in Ken Palm. Kind of the jury's out to see if his game will translate at that level. And then Caleb Glenn playing for a really bad Louisville team, but also, you like the fact he played in the ACC. Those guys are a little bit tougher to guess on because, Louisville was so remarkably bad for Power Five. It's not the same as him coming from Clemson or from North Carolina, as you know. So besides that, we know Trey Carroll, we know Montes Kokonis, and I do remember Devin Vanterpool from recruiting. Looked like a great athlete in all the film I saw. You just don't know how good those guys are. So to me, it's like 7 guys that we have no idea how they're going to mesh. We have no idea like how great they can be. I would love to see a few more really, really solid, sure thing type players if possible. If they can't get those guys, you probably should schedule a little bit weaker. If you can get some real live bullets in the portal and beef this roster up, then you schedule harder. So it's a wait and see. And I think we already know 7 of the Owls games, and all 7 of them are pretty decent to tough games. They might just fill the rest with somewhat winnable games at home. So we'll see.
It's definitely something interesting to think about because that also is what gave the Owls a lot of national attention last year, that ESPN tournament. So it's something that'll be weighing on the Owls' minds, fans. If we may be seeing the schedule develop more soon here. Coach Jake has mentioned that his staff member that's handling the schedule was in the NBA. If it's who I think it is, their season just wrapped up shortly a few days ago. So we'll see if any schedule news drops soon for the Owls. But it's too early really to make large scale predictions about what'll happen next year for FAU. But in your mind, what's a safe goal for the Owls? Is it win the AAC or is at this point is it get back to the NCAA tournament from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to shoot. You always want to aim high. But like I said, I have concerns about the roster so far until we find out what the final roster looks like. So it's a wait and see. If they put a roster together that's worthy of, hanging with a UAB or hanging with a Memphis, who both I think are the clear cut top 2 going into next year, just based on the pieces they've already have committed. Then sky's the limit, and those absolutely should be the goals to win the league and get to the NCAA. But if they can't build a roster that's near that level, I think it'd be unrealistic to hope for that. I think from that point on, you could, realistically hope for a fight for 3rd place. I would say the next 2 teams in line right now, just based on commitments, are North Texas and Wichita State. They've both done a nice job. They've also lost some pieces themselves. And I think Charlotte, South Florida, Temple. Temple's kind of a sneaky one to watch out for. They added Jamal Mashburn Jr.
Did.
And they've got the kid from St. Joe's that came over. So they've got a nice roster brewing themselves. So yeah, I feel like after UAB and Memphis, it's going to be a dogfight between the rest of the league. At this point, a lot's going to change though. So ask me again in a couple months.
We shall see what develops for FAU. Rocco, thanks for hopping on with us tonight. We blew past 9:30, but we bought some minutes. Because the technical difficulties. We could talk all night about different topics in the NCAA. We'll have to bring you back on again soon, my man. What's going on? What besides scheduling? Any big plans going on for you right now?
Not a ton. Planning to be actually down in Florida, see a few coaches, hang out a little bit next week. But besides that, just working on schedules. Got a lot of stuff going into my website, bracketeer.org. So probably by the end of May, you'll start seeing a lot of new pages with all the schedule information available. Should be easy to access and follow along. We're going to start with the Power 5 leagues and then work our way through the American and move on from there. And then besides that, just probably doing shows like this and keeping things moving because it's a 365 day a year sport these days, Robbie.
I agree. John Rothstein just went to bed. It's May 1st over there. But you know what? It is 365. News never stops. Portal never stops. But enjoy it while you can. Hopefully you enjoy Florida while you're down here. And we'll talk with you again soon. We're going to take a quick break here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Steven? Yep.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Bro, the Marlins are still trash. Congrats.
You're listening to Paul Severino. That was Paul Severino on the call for the Marlins win last night. Robbie, Lastella, Drew Schuler, Christian Prost here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Welcome back, guys. Didn't hear from you in the Rocco interview, but glad to be back on here with you guys. Any thoughts about FAU schedule, Jacobs international recruiting, portal landscape as a whole?
I like the start for all three or four topics you just discussed. Scheduling, I wanted a big tournament. You know, you don't get in the NCAA tournament without scheduling quality Q1 games. in the out of conference. I like the start of the transfer haul that we brought in, but Rocco brought in good insight. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, or else every team would improve their record from the previous year based off the transfer portal. Not everyone is what you expect there to be. Right now, I think there's probably 3 unproven guys we brought in. I thought that was great insight from Rocco. So, I like the start and I have a lot of faith, but we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, no, I like how this roster has started to be built. Scheduling wise, like Drew said, I love that we're gonna be able to still slide into a big tournament, even without Dusty and without the 9 dudes that are no longer on the team. I do also like that we're throwing a couple cake games in on the out of schedule or on the out of conference. Sorry, being able to beat up on FIU is a FAU fan's favorite pastime. Being able to beat up on Florida Gulf Coast, I think, will be good. So just being able to beat, because this is something that I said from the second that Jacobs got hired, is we need to schedule in-state rivals, bring them in Boca, beat the living hell out of them, and it'll get the fan base fired up.
Can
So
we even say we're going to beat the hell out of FGCU, though?
No. That's what I was saying to Rocco. Like that's a budding rivalry if they beat us twice. So we cannot have that. We should not be having a budding rivalry with Florida Gulf Coast. As I'm a mid-major advocate, but FAU cannot be engaging in rivalries with FGCU or FIU at this point in their career.
I'm in agreement with that.
I agree too. But listen, FIU's still a little brother. They still think that they can play with the big boys. We're going to beat the hell out of them in football season in Boca. Then we'll go to your crib down in Key Biscayne and beat the hell out of you there in basketball.
I'm cool with playing them, especially in football. The Shula Bowl gets people there. Even in our CUSA days, we were bringing 24,000 people there. But I have a quick question for both of you guys. Robbie said we can't be engaging in these rivalries for basketball, and I am in total agreement. After the past 2 years, we worked too hard, accomplished too much to be doing that. Who is the realistic higher major rival you guys would want to engage with?
Michigan.
That would be a fun one. I just don't think there's it depends where a lot. There's not really anything there besides Dusty. None of the players. Vlad's not the type to engage in a type of beef like that.
No,
I don't know. It depends who we schedule, right? If there's any teams we played last year that we somehow get on this, Arizona maybe that would be fun. Arizona back, and if we keep it close again this year, that's a budding rivalry in my opinion. I mean, you can't call everything a rivalry, but that's a competitive matchup for sure.
For sure. If it's close to a rivalry, I feel like you got to beat them twice.
I like it A&M. I like if we could start running that with Texas A&M, I like that. However, if there's a couple schools that I have a hit list on of where run it back, it's San Diego State, Northwestern, USF, and other than that,
give me Illinois. I want
Illinois. But yeah, no, just I need a get back game somewhere on that schedule. Do I think that we could beat Northwestern? Do I think we could beat San Diego State with our current roster? Probably not. However, as Rocco said, I do believe that we're going to beef out that roster. We're going to bring some more dudes from Portal Combat. But yeah, no, just give me an opportunity. Beat USF, and please just let me troll on Twitter. Let me do my thing.
I want FAU to schedule Florida. I think that Florida win was the start of it all. If you go back to last season, that was the game where everyone saw FAU and they were like, "Oh wait, these guys don't suck." So let's schedule them again. Let's make it a little interesting for Elijah Martin up there in Gainesville.
I want Ole Miss too. Ole Miss, the team that beat us before we played UF. Hey,
Elijah won that game. Elijah did not play against Ole Miss.
I'm a nostalgic guy, man. Like, imagine just like kind of like really kind of running back what we did the Final Four year with that'd be fun. You play Ole Miss on the road, play Florida on the road, but you also throw in a little bit of that Charleston Classic like we got.
What about
How-
UM?
However,
Miami, absolutely, yeah. Bring that game to FAU though. I want to play us in the LE.
there is also a tournament during the non-conference schedule that's down in Sunrise where the Panthers play. UF is usually playing in it, and FSU is usually playing in it. It's the Sunrise, it's the Sunshine Classic, whatever the hell it's called. I think that's the name. So yeah, bring us in that. That's another one where you got all the teams in the state. Last year it was Florida, Florida State, USF, and Richmond. I don't know how Richmond,
Virginia?
yeah, the Richmond Spiders of the A10. I don't know how they made it in there, but if you guys remember from the Twitter group chat, I remember texting in that group chat, USF might be good after that game because they beat the hell out of Florida State.
Florida State was just bad.
Obviously, Florida State was a mid basketball team last year, but I would like to say that unfortunately I did call that USF would be a halfway decent team.
I guess so.
There should be a massive Florida tournament. Like, come on, man. What are we doing? We haven't played Miami in 3 years.
Give us Miami.
Oh, that game was brutal. You guys, oh my gosh.
I was there.
Vlad Golden. See that? Oh, anytime people criticize Vlad Golden's free throws, I was like, you're not there when he was missing them against UM. It's only been up. It's only been up from that game. People like to criticize that missed free throw against Northwestern. That was a small miscue in what was an overall very productive season, especially from the free throw line for Vlad. That UM game though was brutal.
The Miami game was rough, and I remember the storyline was we didn't get a whole lot of coverage because FAU basketball before the Final Four. But I remember seeing on Twitter, it's like Vlad Golden is working after the game on his free throws, and everyone's just like, yeah, he should be. But like, man, it's just night and day how much better he's gotten. That's why and just how good of a dude he is. That's why it's the toughest loss for me. I think most people would agree. Like, yeah, please don't complain about his free throw percentage because this year he was excellent compared to even the year before, and it's night and day between 2 years ago.
Real ones remember when FAU almost lost to Lynn.
No, real ones forget about that, Christian.
Yeah,
real ones forget about that. Any type of the loss to play in Northern Colorado in the CBI, nope. Which was actually a pretty good feat before the Final Four for FAU. Now, no, thank you. But sticking with the Florida topics, Marlins won again tonight, Christian. How about that? What in the world is going on? Fish won 4-1 tonight over the Rockies.
Two streak, gentlemen. 2-game win streak. We're going to the World Series.
But, unfortunately, your Miami Heat have been eliminated from postseason contention. 118-84 loss tonight to the Celtics. We were down 30 at one point in that game. The Heat were led by Bam Adebayo with 23, Tyler Hero with 15. For the C's, another consistent performance all around. 25 from Derek White, 25 from Jaylen Brown, 16 from Jason Tatum, 17 from Sam Hauser off the bench, who was a thorn in the side of the Heat all series long. Nobody could cover him on a pick and roll. It seemed like Kevin Love was lost on. If Kevin Love is lost in space, either he needs to retire or the Celtics are running some of the greatest schemes of all time because Kevin Love is very intelligent. So
it's definitely not the Celtics running the best schemes of all time.
I was trying to be nice, Drew.
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla. He's well respected in the coaching circles, but I'm not a firm Joe Mazzulla fan. If to put it nicely, I'll say that.
Yeah, no, listen. The Heat just wanted to clear everybody's schedules for when the Panthers when the Panthers go to the Stanley Cup final and when Inter Miami makes a run. So, yeah, no, I'm not worried because South Florida, we got good sports. I'm not worried. Even on a down year with the Heat, we still got the Panthers. We still got Inter Miami. The Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl this year. We're only up from here. The Marlins, they might win 20 games this year. Let's go. Bleacher bets. Like,
Speaking of, no, I was gonna say, speaking of South Florida sports, Christian, you forgot about the FAU Lady Owls, our softball squad here in Paradise. Lady Owls, 38-13 on the year, 18-6 in AAC action. They got a regular season series finale versus Tulsa, win 2, and you are regular season AAC conference championships. Coach Jordan Clark balling here for the Owls. Most wins for the Owls since 2016. Her record since coming to Paradise, 73-33. Whole lot of winning over there in Paradise. Also, FAU softball is in at-large position. So we're going to have postseason play no matter what here in Paradise. It is an awesome experience. I was at the coach's show today hearing from Coach Clark. She talked about the grittiness of her squad, just finding ways to win, and encouraging the Boca community to come out this weekend, come see some good softball. I was pulling up their ads this weekend. We've got a red out on Friday, free red shirts to the first 150 fans. Saturday is Youth Day. Bring out the kids, run the bases post game. Great opportunity. And Sunday, the best one of them all, if you're gonna go with the whole family, maybe not the whole family, just bring you and your wife. It is $2 tequila seltzers, Cinco de Mayo celebration. It's also Senior Day, so I don't know how tequila sodas and Senior Day go together. Oh, Senior Day! I thought it was for old people. It's for the seniors. That's a stupid moment there. No, see. But anyway, yeah, it is Senior Day. It is Senior Day. I don't know how that went over my head because that was a focal part of the interview too. A lot of seniors on this FAU softball squad. Not old people. So
A lot of seniors, but one thing I was noticing is we are starting a true freshman at shortstop, and
Yeah.
she's been killing it. Is what I saw on the FAE Sports Show. But man, Coach Clark's been killing it since getting here. What a job she's done since taking over. Just unbelievable work by her to get FAU softball and at large. It's not easy, We play in the AAC. Like at large in the AAC, you have to be a really damn good coach and coach a really good team.
Yeah, no, this is I've seen them play a couple games. This is a very good softball team. I love what I saw from them on the couple games I've seen. They have a deep pitching core. Drew, like you said, they're true freshmen. Shortstop Kylie Shannell was having a great year. The game that I was at, I think she blasted a 2-run home run. Yeah, no, they've been looking very good, and yeah, this is a postseason worthy team. I'm glad that they're getting the respect that they deserve, and I should be out at the game on Friday, schedule permitting. However, Robbie, when you get forced to run the bases on Saturday, what's going to be your 40 time, bro?
I don't. Can you calculate the 40? Is that how many yards are in between bases?
No. I mean, what would your time be?
Oh, around the bases. Okay. I don't know. I've never.
Would you be wearing loafers?
Only loafers when I'm reporting on Sports Christian. It's bad juju if not. But I will say, my parents signed me up for T-ball as a kid, and unfortunately, I ran the wrong way around the base pass. That was my first and last T-ball game as a kid. So if we do that, just point me in the right directions. Make sure I go right instead of left. I don't want to do that.
I don't know if disrespected. My bad, Christian. You can go.
I said dyslexia gets the best of all of us, Robbie. It's all right. Just hold this up, right and left. Shout out to my sister. That's how she learned how to drive. Drew, you have the floor.
I don't want to say disrespected because I don't think that's the right word, but in FAU sports history, is there anyone more like undercovered for as good as they are as softball? Like there should be palpable buzz around this softball team.
Steven, where's the palpable buzz? You're our softball expert. Who's covering softball, and why aren't they at FAU?
We'll be there.
Steven on the scene, our softball expert. We'll get Steven doing an interview with Coach Clark soon enough here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network because the Owls, they're going to be playing postseason softball soon enough. Maybe some postseason baseball as well. Owls baseball currently third place in the conference, first year in AAC play. Coach Mack doing his thing again. We are winding down here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Only 2 minutes to go. Welcome, Steven. What do you got? Some softball action for us? Oh, you're muted. Hold on, you're muted.
There. Yeah, I'm just here to let you guys know. Yeah, if you guys ever need someone with softball knowledge, let me know. I'll talk to you guys about it, and we can get it rolling. So we'll get things moving.
We're gonna get it rolling here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network with FAU softball, especially with Steven on board, guys. I think we got to go full force.
The Bleacher Bros will be in attendance.
Absolutely.
Guys, it's my last show. My last show, at least until I am officially a graduate of FAU. Time has flown by here. My next show on Monday, I will be an official graduate of FAU. It's crazy. It's been a great 4 years here at Paradise, and more to come with the Bleacher Brothers. More to come.
Absolutely, Robbie. Congratulations. I didn't want to say I didn't think you couldn't do it on time, but no, I'm joking. I knew you could on time. Congratulations. I wish I could be there, but I will be driving back home. But yeah, congratulations, Sir Robbie.
Yep.
Yeah, Robbie, congratulations, bro. Just you graduate on Friday. Just know on Saturday that you better be sending money in on the alumni fund because those dollars get me scholarships. So pay up, buddy. Get ready to Venmo.
Unfortunately, I get a free year of the Alumni Association, so I will not be having to do that.
I'm getting Birdman on you. Birdman and Mama Birdman are going to hunt you down for money. I want
Birdman. All right, guys, we are officially out of time here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. It's been another great week of programming with my guys, Drew, Christian, Tobey. Shout out Rocco Miller for hopping on with us as well tonight. We shall see you guys next week. It's been a fun one. For Drew and Christian, I'm Robbie. Have a great rest of your night.